so much, Claire, and thanks for inviting us to do this. Full disclosure, this is a brand new effort. It is very much in its beta phase, and we are actively developing. And so what you're going to see here today is a little rudimentary because you're right on the ground floor with us. And the purpose of the presentation is really just to get the idea out there in hopes that we can get some feedback from all of you, because all of you are sort of the target audience for this database. I have with me here today Lisa Rosenthal. She is our data specialist who is helping us develop this project. So before I dive into CWI and myself, Lisa, do you just want to say hi and introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. So as Marissa said, I'm helping out CWI on this knowledge network. And without introducing weird terms, essentially, I'm working out the framework of the project and figuring out how to collect data in a cogent manner.
Great, thank you, Lisa. So we're going to hear a little bit more detail from her in just a bit, but I will dive in and give you all an overview of CWI and kind of the purpose behind this project. I recognize a bunch of you here today. Thank you so much. It's nice to see you. But for those of you who don't know me, I am Marissa Christiansen. I'm the Executive Director of the Climate Wildfire Institute, otherwise known as CWI. And we were formed in 2021 to accelerate solutions to this era's most pressing climate and wildfire challenges, emphasis in the wildfire right now. Our work is rooted in California. It's a global epicenter of wildfire innovation. We're closely aligned with the Climate Wildfire and California Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force. Wow, too many acronyms and stumblings there. Apologies. And we help connect the state, federal stakeholders, tribal stakeholders, and local efforts so that science and new innovation for the purpose of hopefully science and new innovation informing policy change. Let's see, for myself, Marissa, I am here in Los Angeles. Most of my team is up in Northern California, Nevada. We have one person in Oregon as well. So we're spread all over the place. We're a full remote team. And I've been with the organization for about a year. From XPRIZE to the Los Angeles River Regional Water Quality Control Board, I've spent my career working at the intersection of climate resilience, infrastructure planning, and coalition building. And leading CWI has been a really invigorating and creative continuation of that path. And of course, being a native Californian, obviously being here in Los Angeles, wildfire is definitely something that is top of mind for me, just in my day-to-day life, as it is for each of you, I'm sure. So in the time since I've joined CWI, I've grown to recognize the critical value of investing in proactive science-based stewardship, and that requires sustained collaboration. In my experience, particularly coming from water and environmental movements, I can see that very quickly as a space grows and there's more energy in it, things very quickly become siloed, when really at that moment where we're experiencing a lot of new influx and energy and resource, those are the moments we need to figure out ways to keep collaborating so that we push forward faster together rather than spin our wheels alone. And so that is really the purpose of the Climate Wildfire Institute, is to be that vehicle that can help connect different entities, researchers, innovators, policymakers, and practitioners to move faster together. So as I go, I realize I need to be clicking through the slides as well. Is to accelerate solutions to the era's most pressing climate and wildfire challenges. And as I've already sort of mentioned, we are working in collaboration and specifically under a consortium model, which really means that our team is small, nimble, we're risk tolerant, and we prioritize working with partners and supporting them in their good work, and then connecting that good work to, on the ground demonstration to prove out concepts that then can inform policy. So a little bit of our theory of change, which I've in a way already covered here, but we really function first and foremost as conveners. We identify the challenges, needs, and gaps and share knowledge amongst a network of partners. And those partners are everybody from large organizations like Google to researchers at various universities, to agency and practitioner partners. And what we do is take that feedback about the largest stumbling blocks in wildfire solutions and mitigations today, and we put that into our own research agenda, our own priorities for any given year. And we look for opportunities to get the good research, the good data, the good science out there in various ways, right? That can be giving it a platform and translating a little bit for our policymakers into policy language, or just sometimes plain English, as well as looking for opportunities to test some of the new innovation that comes out. And then, of course, we take all of that and we package it in a way that can help inform policy change. And we do that by working with other advocacy groups, and as well as just going direct to agencies and legislative staff to really be a neutral influence. A little bit more about some of our projects. Some of the kind of top projects that we have now, and not in terms of importance, but just in terms of scale or visibility. I'm sure many of you are aware of the Tea Kettle experimental forest. Unfortunately, that just burnt to the ground in the Garnet fire. But we were sort of the coordinating force in what would have been a prescribed burn for that old growth forest. At this point, that project has changed over into really going back and dissecting lessons learned. What happened that it took so long for us to get good fire on the ground? What were the regulatory barriers? What were maybe some of the management barriers, so we can learn and potentially help inform other projects, other similar projects in the future, and maybe break down some of those barriers through policy change. Here's hoping anyway. We also are at the center of the Stewardship Project, which is a project that is focused on cultural fire and breaking down the regulatory barriers to practice cultural fire. And that is mostly focused at the federal level at this point. Then the specific vehicle that we're working on is through FOFA, the Fix Our Forests Act. Of course, that's slow going right now because of the government shutdown, but we do make a little progress each little day. We have a number of partners in that. Most of them are the ones that are actually on the ground doing the lobbying and advocacy, and we are sort of the research backbone, as well as the fiscal sponsor for that. We also are part of the Moore Foundation's Wildfire Resilience Initiative, which is for us under kind of a broader initiative looking at the Tahoe area. We played a coordinating role in the Moore's Wildfire Resilience Initiative for their Tahoe area SPARC. And really what that's looking at is how do you bring together and further accelerate solutions for fire mitigation in pre-fire communities. And the Tahoe area is one of those test beds. And so I mention all of this because we are very much at the center of a number of different efforts and a lot of different partners doing really good work. And so understanding our own space is certainly important to our work, but in really looking at how busy this space has gotten, which I'm sure each and every one of you feel in your daily work, it can become hard to understand who's doing what where and how does that all fit together. And I think in my experience, really getting a movement going, really building momentum, really depends on understanding the space and how people are working together and where the gaps are. And so that is how we came up with FireLines. It is a database different from some of the databases that you already know about. I mean, if you're here, you know about the Wildfire Science and Technology Commons, which is a data clearinghouse, so to speak. You probably know about the Interagency Treatment Dashboard or the data hub that the California Wildfire Task Force has been wanting to build, the WUI Data Commons. These are all really important projects in their own right, and will actually be places where you can go and find the needed data. FireLines is a little bit different. This is an effort that looks at really who is doing what. So not where is the data and how do I get to that data, but just who is out there, what is active, who are the entities that are doing the work, where is that work, and who is funding it, and ultimately what impact is being made. And this all is for the purpose of identifying gaps in the space and maybe redundancies in the space. You know, where is there a lot of energy and investment going on, and is that actually pushing things forward, or is it just sort of frothiness? These are questions that kind of keep me up at night, and I'm sure some of you as well. And the purpose of this database that we're building now is really to help answer some of that. If you will give me a second, I will try to play a video here. Oh, here we go. This is a really just short kind of teaser video about the database. So bear with me.
Wildfires move fast. So should our intelligence.
Pausing just to make sure everybody can hear that and see that. Yes? Okay.
It was with this intention that the Climate and Wildfire Institute was founded. As a boundary consortium-based organization, we work to bridge the gaps between science, policy, and practice. We believe field input should shape applied science, and good science should shape public policy. We work together to connect those dots. So it's no surprise that CWI is creating the field's first network mapping platform. Introducing FireLines, a graph traversing platform mapping the complex relationships, actions, and innovations in the wildfire solution space for strategic insights and faster progress. Get data-backed insights into networks, trends, gaps, and redundancies. FireLines uncovers relationship connections, project overlaps, and critical gaps for better planning, transparency, and impact. From simple systems mapping to gap analysis, our database will use semantic searching and multi-hop queries to uncover discrete connections and gaps. Need to understand the similarities between emerging data hubs and commons? Or want an inventory of current risk models that account for community mitigation? FireLines will ultimately provide insights that are otherwise siloed and largely based on individual institutional knowledge. Developed by the Climate and Wildfire Institute for more transparent, approachable, and actionable insights into the growing field of wildfire solutions. FireLines, mapping the future of fire.
All right. Thank you. Sorry. Okay, here we go. So the video explained everything, obviously much better than I can, and Lisa can also explain things much better than I can. But the point being, it is a database that is meant to be a very visual representation of the ecosystem we all work in. By making this intelligence accessible, FireLines will help governments, funders, private sector, nonprofits, and researchers, each and every one of you, to coordinate more effectively and accelerate resilience and impact. At least that is the hope. So a little bit about just what it is. You know, a lot of us, I think, have seen various versions of network maps. Scott Kaplan has done some really good work on a really complex and detailed Miro board. There's been other organizations that have put together good visual network maps of who is active in the space. However, for the most part, this all takes manual updating and can therefore sort of fall behind pretty quickly. What we don't have yet, and what this database is meant to do, is to be not static, but rather dynamic through using a large language model that can automatically update as new information becomes available and public. So what I'm previewing here is just one of the views that the end product will have. This is by no means where we are just yet, but this is what we're building towards. One of the possible views will be sort of a geographic locator like this, showing where organizations are either located or where there are projects on the ground. And another view showing sort of how each of these entities or each of these projects fit together. You know, who is partnering with who, where, and on what, and where are those intersections. So through intuitive natural language querying, the platform will make this complex data accessible and actionable for policymakers, practitioners, and funders. And by offering real-time insights into the wildfire resilience ecosystem, FireLines enables more strategic investment, efficient resource allocation, and collaborative action. It serves as an open, evolving infrastructure for data-driven decision-making, helping maximize every dollar, project, and partnership to advance collective impact. FireLines embodies our mission to unite science, policy, and practice, delivering the intelligence and coordination needed to scale solutions for a safer, more resilient future in the fire-prone West. And with that, all that background, I can now hand it over to Lisa Rosenthal, who is going to take us through some of the ontology. And in this piece, I think it's important to really understand what it is we are gathering so far, because towards the end of this presentation, we're going to ask each of you for some feedback on how you think this might be helpful in your work and what additional data we might want to consider. So with that, Lisa.
Thank you. So behind the scenes of the user interface that Marissa just shared is a graph database that stores all the data that we will be collecting from our partners. And all of that data is stored or organized by an ontology. And an ontology is a fancy word to describe the blueprint framework that defines entities in a graph. Entities are just things like organizations and consortiums and projects, the relationships between those entities, and then the relationships and those entities can actually have properties in and of themselves. And so this ontology that I'm sharing right here is really simple, and it's kind of the baseline framework that we're planning our database with. And you can see in the teal box is an organization entity, and this can grow a lot more, but at the very minimum, we're going to include properties, including location, type of organizations, and a description. That text field will then be processed through a large language model as well, or it could be. Organizations can interact with products, or they can also interact with consortiums. And so consortiums, organizations can partner within consortiums. And again, those can have locations and descriptions. And either organizations or consortiums can have projects or products. And those products can have focal areas, geographic focal areas, and they can also be defined by the type of product, whether it's an event or a project or a data or policy. It will also have description and status. And then those products will also be contained within topics. So we use this framework to design the architecture of our knowledge graph. And we also have a wonderful database engineer, Charles, who can't make it for this presentation, but he's in the midst of developing this. Next slide. Great. So the ontology can be kind of abstract, and for me, it really comes to life when you come up with an instance of an ontology. And so we're just using mock data here, and I apologize that if it's kind of small on your screen, because it's small on my screen. But I tried to create an instance of an ontology using an example that I know has a lot of different partners. And so I thought about, okay, the FireSat project, which is being led by a consortium, Earth Fire Alliance, which in and of itself has staff members and has a headquarter, even though they're also fully remote. But that coalition has multiple organizations working with them. Some of the organizations they all have different roles. Some of them are actually making satellites, and some of them are analyzing data or doing policy work or funding the project. And so throughout this ontology, we can map out how the different organizations are working together. And then we can also map out what sort of products are being produced by this coalition. And in this instance, it's the FireSat project. And then the FireSat project is within the topic of fire monitoring. This ontology then also comes further into life when you think about, okay, well, what else is there? So next slide. Next slide, Marissa. So then I thought about another project that is also very expanding. So then I thought about all of the different projects that the task force is doing. And you can see again in the teal bubbles, there's different organizations that are working with the task force. There's boundary entities crossing between the FireSat project and the task force. That includes CWI as a convening organization, and also topics. So for example, the Interagency Treatment Tracking System is it's a dashboard that keeps track of a lot of forest activity as well as prescribed fire. So in that instance with the prescribed fire, it's also monitoring fires, obviously in a different way, not with satellites typically. But you can see how as we get more and more data, this graph network will just grow and grow. And at this point, we're in the stage of figuring out the best way to collect data from all of our different partners in California. We're starting with California, and we're also paying attention about how to do that in a dynamic way so that, as Marissa said, this can be automated and not manual. And with that, I'll hand it back to Marissa.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Lisa. So I think at this point, we really would like to open it up to comments, questions, clarifications. You all, as I mentioned, are the hopeful audience, the hopeful users of this tool. And so we want to make sure that what we're doing, first and foremost, is accessible, understandable, and open. But that we are collecting the type of data that may actually be helpful to each of you to understand what it is out there, who's out there, what's going on, where is it, and hopefully it also can help fit into this wildfire science and technology commons that UCSD is building. I can imagine maybe this is a tool that you use to find out what it is that is even going on out there, and then can use the commons to actually access that information and data. But I am going to stop talking here. We do have a survey that we would love for you all to take a minute to fill out. You can do so by scanning the QR code here. And aside from that survey, which you can do at any time, we do want to hear some of the questions from you all that you may have that potentially is not covered in that survey. So with that, what can I tell you all? Who has questions?
Thank you so much, Marissa. Thank you so much, Lisa. We do have one question from Teal. How does this connect to the World Economic Forum's similar effort?
Yes, great. Thank you so much, Teal. We are actually partnered with the World Economic Forum and with SIG, who have both been working towards a similar network mapping. The difference here is they're, I think, looking at, first of all, specific networks that are related to the Google AI collaborative in wildfires. And also what they are building is not this type of semantic database. And we are working alongside them to make sure that, again, just like I'm asking here of all of you, that we are collecting the data and building towards something that will be useful to them in their own efforts.
Excellent. And we do have a question as well in chat from MB. I definitely have questions on how the ontology entities and their links will be determined using LLMs and how the machine learning will be trained and validated. Is that something, Lisa, that you could help with?
I think I would have to defer to Charles actually on this point. So we can, I would say we can take this question back to Charles and
Absolutely.
we'll have an answer in the future.
Yes, Charles is our data scientist and architect for this database. And so we absolutely will circle back. And Claire, I don't know how you'd want to disseminate that, but I can just send the answer to you when I have it.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. And then MB, if you want to share your email to me as a DM, I can respond to you.
Oh, you're muted, MB. I can't hear you. Lisa, can you hear her?
It looks like MV, you're having some audio, so maybe if you want to connect afterwards, we can facilitate a conversation.
All right, that should work better.
Okay,
Oh,
there we go.
I was messing with my microphone last night. Apologies. Yeah, I would love to chat offline with Charles and Lisa and company about that. That was the main thing that came up for me in the kind of technical side.
Yeah, great. No problem. We will connect.
Thanks.
Other
Any
questions?
Yeah. Welcome questions. And yes, Greg, we will have the recording available later so you can catch up with the conversation that's been had. I do have a question myself. So you all mentioned Scott's Miro board, for example. Are there kind of core databases, or at least like how that's going to be represented, that you're already starting to take as a lesson learned from other products within the community? What helped inspire the relationships so far?
I mean, yeah, I gotta say for me personally, Scott Kaplan's Miro board was just the basis of information. If you all haven't seen it, again, that's a link that we can dig up and share out. But it is really impressive and just a behemoth of a visual layout of kind of the network that wildfire kind of works within. It's everything from government agencies involved to private industry to every single university that has any sort of research or focus on wildfire. And so you can just imagine it's just a monster of a project to have undertaken. And so wanting to take that and make sure that it can be continuously updated, and maybe also just have a way of filtering for the information and getting straight to whatever it is, whatever the query is that you are looking for. So that is one. That's probably the biggest inspiration, I would say, and certainly a piece of where we're getting our own data and information. In addition, SIG and Wildfire or World Economic Forum, as I just mentioned, Both of them have been collecting data specifically for the Google AI Collaborative in wildfire. And again, that data is looking at globally, first of all, and our initial database will be focused in the West. And so they are collecting data around those that are specifically using AI for fire management and mitigation. So again, we're trying to not be so domain specific, but rather geographically specific, and specifically looking right now for our beta phase at California, for those networks that are connected to the More Wildfire Resilience Initiative, to our own consortium network that we work within and are connected to, and to the California Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force. That's kind of the testing ground that we're basing this off of.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any other questions from the community?
I think, hi, my name's Liam with Conservation X Labs, and we're very lucky to partner with CWI on the Fire Grant Challenge that I help manage. And I think this could be a really great resource for innovators, and I'm sure a lot of the other more folks and people who work in this space are thinking the same thing, just because I think, especially with early stage innovators, so many are so focused on developing their product that it can be harder to see where they fit into the broader ecosystem. And so I think this could help them streamline their product market fit, help them find grants to help with the early stage, or potential investors, help find potential competitors or partners with customer interviews. So it seems really cool. For those people who are just coming on the scene or others who are expanding, how do you imagine individual nodes within the network, individual entities interfacing with this? Is there going to be some intake form where they can put in updates or their initial entry into it, or where they can help perhaps edit some of the information, maybe Wikipedia style? I think a lot of the value seems like it would come from that granularity. And also, I'm sure there's probably going to be some data privacy concerns too, which that might help sort out. But yeah, how do you see it automatically updating and also interplaying with the individual members' input?
Yeah, those are really good questions. And that's something that we were sort of digging into just this last week, actually. We do, in a perfect world, want individuals and entities to be able to update their own information as they see fit. This is meant to be an open platform. Open science, open data is kind of central to our values as an organization. But that said, we also don't want to have to rely on individuals to update their own information. I think that's where platforms get stuck a lot of times, and kind of what keeps them ultimately static. So that's where the machine learning comes in. We do want to be able to train this model to be scanning accessible public information sort of constantly, to be able to update with what is just out there. But of course, getting something more granular and some of that detail that maybe you can't find on the web will take individual input. So that it's definitely a process that we're going to have to work out, but something that's on our mind. And I'm glad to hear you say that you think you can see how this is helpful to those innovators.
That makes a lot of sense, and I totally agree with that. I think, and this is probably in the survey form, but maybe it could be interesting to have some kind of volunteer community monitors, or I'm sure there'd be a lot of people in the space who'd be willing to lend some time to review suggestions from entities about how their information could be updated or made more accurate or changed, and then that would serve as a filter while also not blocking too much. So I'm not sure. There's a lot of cool possibilities. So thanks for starting the amazing work on this.
Yeah, great. No, that's a great idea. I might call you at some point soon in the future to help kind of workshop that.
Sure thing. Yeah, I'd be happy to relay some of how I think our innovator cohort could utilize this.
Yeah, great. Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you, Liam. And I know Tim also has a question in chat. Is there currently a public facing version of this knowledge graph?
No, not yet. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is the ground floor. I mean, we started building this, just a month or so ago. It's an idea that we've been cooking up, I would say, over the last year, but finally, greenlit it and started doing it very, very recently. So we definitely don't have anything that is camera ready, I would say, but as soon as we do, trust me, we will make a lot of noise about it and certainly get it out to all of you. Well, as I mentioned, please do take a minute to go to this or use this QR to get to our survey. We would love your feedback. Certainly, this is not the last time you'll be hearing from us or about this. And I hope you will all consider yourselves partners in this, because this is for each of you. So much appreciated. Thank you so much again, Claire, for having us here today.
Thank you so much, Marissa, and thank you so much to the CWI team. Always a pleasure to hear from you all and the exciting work that you're leading.